Hi, welcome back to my channel. My name is hautemesstom. Thank you so much for tuning in to this video. If you are new here, hi, welcome. This is obviously not my normal content. If you were interested in what I do outside of talking about my experiences working for a company that you are clearly interested in hearing about, I am currently on a 6-month no-buy. My channel is all about loving my collection as it is and focusing on that as opposed to bringing in new things. But that's a whole different topic for another day. So if you clicked on the title of this video, clicked on this video because you were hoping to hear some inflammatory things about the company, that's not what this video is meant to be. This video is going to sound more like a breakup that happened and the realization that I needed to move on from this after some things happened that did not align with where I wanted to be in my life. So I'm so sorry if you were looking for me to come in here hot and angry. It's really not what it is. I would say the overwhelming emotion coming from me toward the company in this video is going to be disappointment. So just take that for what it is. If you are someone who is interested in working in Sephora, or you just wanted to get a better generalization of what might happen in this video, I should have chapters in the description box so you can click wherever you want, and those should show up on the timeline as well if you want to hop around down there instead of just watching the video in its entirety, which is no judgment from me, of course, if that's the way you're planning it. I have a little bit of a script written, so I will be referring to my phone sometimes. I might not be writing word for word, but if I am looking at my phone, that is what's going on. There are a couple things that I need you to keep in mind. I was never sure that I was going to make this video. Again, this isn't to be dramatic or inflammatory. It was just I didn't know if I should ever wanted to speak on my experience with Sephora, because there are a lot of videos on this platform where you watch it and the people are very fired up, and I'm not distrusting that that's what happened to those people and those are the way those people feel. I'm not trying to discredit those people. They are speaking from their experience, and just like they are speaking from their experience in their videos, I'm going to be speaking from my experience in mine. I'm not going to speak for other people that I worked with. I might use them as a reference point to make sure, to tell you that, if something was happening to me, was it also happening to other people, etc. But I'm not going to be speaking for other people. What I'm saying is, my personal thoughts and feelings as to why I ended up leaving the company. Again, this is not, I just want to re-emphasize this 7 times because we're here on the internet. This is not to bring up animosity towards the company. I still shop at Sephora. I still shop at the Sephora that I used to work at. So it's obviously not an ending at which really changed a lot of how I operate as someone who shops for makeup as well. Also up top, I would like it to be noted that I worked at a Sephora that was free, that was inside of a mall, not a Sephora inside JCPenney, which I know operate a lot differently than regular Sephoras. And it was not a freestanding Sephora, which was not in a mall, because there are Sephoras that are just a store that you do not have to go into a mall into. So that's the point of view. That's where this was. So just know that. Okay, let's talk about how I got started at Sephora. So I fell in love with makeup in 2016. I've talked ad nauseum in many places about how I started out, fell in love with makeup. I shopped a lot at Sephora when I was getting into makeup, and I always had really great experiences there. And this was also, when I talk about these experiences that were so great, they were specifically at the Sephora that I would ultimately end up working at. It was such a lovely environment. They made me feel so welcome, and I unfortunately understand that that is not the case for everyone when they walk into Sephora, but I will say that these people really took me and showed me things and talked to me and listened and heard me out. It was such a beautiful experience for me. And so come 2017, I was looking to pay off a little bit of credit card debt, and I was well, maybe I'll get a holiday job. I'd never done it before. I never had a holiday second job. I've always only ever had one job in my life. And I was well, I have some credit card debt. It'd be nice to have an extra job and doing something on the side that is also something that I'm very interested in and I can be passionate about. So it'd be really great to work at Sephora. So I applied for a holiday position, and I did end up getting it. This is a side note. If you are someone who is interested in working at Sephora, things are obviously very different because of the pandemic. I'm talking about 2017 when I got into it and how it operated up until COVID, and then the pandemic obviously changed a lot of things. So I'm just being frank with you about that. I don't know that this is the case now or will be the case going forward, but typically you had to, for the most part, to get a job at Sephora that was permanent and not seasonal, you had to start as a seasonal cast member, or it was like that was a very common experience, at least at my store, where we would work the holiday season and then they would keep some of us from holiday and then the rest of us would be, seasonal employees. We would be done. They wouldn't need us anymore. That was like the best way to get in. Obviously, occasionally we hired other times if we had like more than one person quit around the same time, we might need to fill their hours on the schedule a little bit faster. So then they would hire out of holiday season. But for the most part, almost everyone I worked with was hired during a holiday season, was hired permanently during a holiday season. I got the position, and after a few shifts there, I like fell in love with it. It was amazing. Everyone I worked with, I would say the whole time I worked there, were people who genuinely loved makeup. And I'm obviously speaking for my team and my store alone. We were genuinely there to help people and wanted to hear what you needed and do our best to make sure you got it. And like, that was definitely the energy in our store, always was the energy in our store. And it was beautiful and amazing. And I learned a lot because I didn't know a lot about makeup. I may have been doing it for a year, but I also have realizations about makeup to this day. I'm like 5 years in, and I'm sure that people who are 10, 15, 20 years in are still just learning wonderful things about makeup and things that they can do and what they like and what they don't, and like the way the styles change. It's like such an interesting and fascinating industry sometimes. Worked the holiday season. This was in 2017, remember. It was a crazy working holiday at Sephora in 2017 was bananas. The line would go all the way to the door, wrap around the store. A lot of the times people didn't know where the line started. We had the unfortunate reality that our cash wrap was in the middle of the store. It was in the middle of the store. So there were cash registers facing every which direction. And so people would think that they were cutting the line by going to the registers in the back, but like the register facing the back of the store. But it was like, no, we all pulled from one line. It was lunacy. As much as that was something that could have exhausted to me, I was invigorated. I loved it. Even though I was just a cashier, I was just like living my best life, loving working at Sephora. I was like, I want to be here forever. I love working at Sephora. It is just the best. It's like my favorite job. Unfortunately, after my first holiday season, I was not asked to stay, and it broke my heart for a number of reasons. And like, this is like not on Sephora at all, but like I was unemployed otherwise, and it was like I had a part-time position. But that's like a story for another time. It was like a journey. It was not great mentally health-wise for me, but like it is not like I do not harbor any hard feelings for like my store not keeping me for that holiday, after that holiday season or anything like that. But it was like, that was tough stuff. It was like a tough realization. It like hurt a lot to not be asked to stay that time, especially like in the desperation of being someone who was unemployed. It was like, I need income. Time passes. Like, I think I was even a seasonal cast member up until February, like early February. Like I was the last seasonal person hanging around that wasn't asked to stay. Eventually found a full-time job, and holiday season crept back around, and all I kept thinking was, I never want to have two jobs again. But like, wasn't working at Sephora like the most fun? Wasn't it the most fun you ever had? And it was the first job where my interests and passions made me money and was a job. And Sephora was always a place that I looked forward to going to in that holiday season. I was like, I so much enjoy working that I like can't wait to go to work. I couldn't wait. Like, I was so good. So I did apply to be on holiday again. They brought me back for more money, more hourly, which was like great. I was asked to stay after that holiday season. And so that was like when my journey at Sephora like really like took off. I was a Sephora employee. I was permanent. I wasn't full-time, but I was permanent. So like it was my second job. This video isn't to track out my journey bit by bit. So right now I'm going to break it down into pros and cons. And I think let's start with the pros. Store discount, baby. If you are someone who loves makeup and is into makeup, ooh, that store discount is very nice. It is. It also changed while I worked there, which was funny. And I like forgot about that until I was sitting down to write the script for this video. When I initially started at Sephora, we got a 20% discount. So it did move up to 30% permanently. And I don't remember when that happened, but it was like one day there was an announcement that we would have 30% all year round. And it's wonderful. Getting 30% off makeup is amazing. It really is. It really is when you're like a collector and you're someone who has like a huge collection. It's just like, it's the dream. Another form of discount that happens is that sometimes brands will offer us, the employees, an additional discount on their specific brand. So for example, like Tarte would say that you get an extra 20% off on Tarte from this day to this day. And so then essentially you're getting 50% off paying for Tarte at cost. Other brands would do something similar or have some kind of shopping incentive for Sephora employees where like if you would just get more discounts for shopping with that brand as a Sephora employee. And those were really beautiful, especially if you had your eye on something. Like I really loved the Tarte Chrome paints. This is like a very specific example. I love the Tarte Chrome paints, but I always thought that's like too much money. And then like I think we had like an additional 50% off on Tarte at some point. It was like Tarte was essentially giving us makeup. And so I think my chrome paint pots only cost me like $6 each. It was something I was like, I will buy them for $6, but I did not want them for like 20 or whatever the cost of them is at full price. So that was like a delight and a treat. So that, yes, discounts, very big pro. Another huge pro, and I would argue that what most people would say is like the biggest pro of working at Sephora is gratis. Let's talk about gratis, what it is. Let's talk about what it is to help you if you're not familiar with that verbiage, because you might not have heard it. Gratis is, I don't know if it's specific to like the beauty and cosmetic industry, but it's the only place I've ever encountered it. So gratis would be a brand would give you something for free. So let's talk, Bobbi Brown gave me the Bobbi Brown vitamin face base for free. And what Bobbi Brown essentially wants out of giving me this item for free is for me to experience and use and hopefully love the product so much that when I am selling, it is an item that I recommend. And whenever I do recommend, because I have used it, I can give personal experience in my sell, as opposed to being like, this is a very popular item according to A, B, and C, but I've never used it. It encourages you, me, the employee, to experience a product and then sell a product based on experience, which like, if you're talking about sales, talking about personal experience is like often a very good way to sell product. I mean, it's not like a surefire way, but people really love hearing your direct experience. So that is what gratis is. It's free product that brands give you to try either new launches or staple products in their collection to like revive and zhuzh and like get you to think about that product again. So when I started at Sephora, it would be like brand reps would give us gratis. And even at the end of my tenure at Sephora, brand reps would give us gratis as well. Like if you worked the day a brand rep came into your store, you would get education on whatever you were going to get gratis of. If the Bobbi Brown brand rep would come into the store and say that they want us to focus on the vitamin enriched face base, they would educate me what are the benefits of the Bobbi Brown face base, and then they would be like, okay, so like we're going to give you this as gratis so you can talk about it. That's how things kind of mostly worked whenever I started at Sephora. Then Sephora really streamlined their gratis, and they streamlined it, and then they like were additionally streamlining it like as I was on my way out. They were doing some what I think was better on my way out. So like this is good news. So at some point, so when you work at Sephora, you're like whatever part of the store you're in, typically, you are like that is your specific role in the store. So like I was a beauty advisor, and so a color beauty advisor, which means that I was on the sales floor. This is like at the end. Obviously, I talked about being a cashier, but I have worked my way up. But that's a discussion for a little bit later. So they streamlined it so that like I, as a beauty advisor who worked in color, would get surveys, and basically it would be like, okay, you're gonna get these 3 foundations in gratis. What shade do you want of the foundation? And then it'll also tell you you're getting all of these other things. So, but this is like, I'm breaking this down because like it was like weird. I would get specific gratis for what I got, and cash wrap would get specific gratis, and then skincare people would get specific gratis, and then fragrance people, we were all getting like gratis, and a lot of it would overlap, but there would be like very specific differences. For the most part, like I would say like skincare and color advisors would make out the best in this specific scenario of gratis. And then there was a lot of hubbub about that because we would all get different gratis. It was one thing to get different gratis if it was from a brand rep. When you weren't there that day when the brand rep was there, of course you didn't get that gratis. That's just like how it worked. But it was like, why should I, as someone who works in color, get the new Charlotte Tilbury foundation when someone at the cash wrap isn't getting any foundations? Like I got so much foundation working in color that it's like the reason I'm going through my foundations like this is just because I got so much foundation and gratis, which I'm thankful for and I appreciate. And it was like very nice to get to try foundations, because foundations is like what people would ask you for help with the most. People weren't really asking you about blush or whatever, or contour. They wouldn't really ask you about that. It's like foundation is like the number one thing that you are getting pulled. Like a client is coming up to you and like was like, I need you to help me with this. So it was very nice to have that bank of knowledge from foundations. So they have streamlined it even more, where essentially it's like, if you work at Sephora, you all are getting the same gratis, which I think is smart. Or at least, I don't know if that's something our store specifically was doing, and like was just kind of moving us all into this general category, which I don't know if that general category in the employment always existed, but like, do you know what I mean? So like it's been streamlined. Gratis is amazing. Gratis is amazing. A lot of my collection is gratis. I will break it down for you. Like if you are interested in working there, I would say like I got mostly foundations you get a lot of, mascaras you get a lot of, eyeliners and powders are probably like what you get the most of. Like I would say that a lot of that built up. Eyeshadows and other things, blushes, you get a lot of lip product too. But like eyeshadow palettes, stuff like that, you don't often get that. Like it would be a very special occasion for you to get an eyeshadow product. Our store also, we could earn gratis by like sales and people shouting out. I don't know that that's a thing that you would find at other stores. So I don't want to say that that's like guaranteed, but like there was other opportunities for us to like earn gratis. So the next pro I'm going to talk about is a store by store basis. So this experience is like, this part is very personal to my experience. And you need to know that before I say this, is that I genuinely loved almost everyone that I worked with at my store. We all vibed. We were all there for each other. Covering shifts we weren't the best at, but like in the store, when it was go time, we were a support system for each other. We were looking out for each other. We would do peer-to-peer education sometimes, where like I would like pull someone aside and be like, I have never used this product before. Like, what is the rundown? Let me tell you about Katina. Beautiful, wonderful, amazing Katina. This is just like a very specific example of what I just said. Katina, one day, Katina loves lip stains. Specifically loves lip stains. I don't wear lip stains. One time I had a client come up to me and they were like, I'm looking for a new lip stain. And I was like, I'm not the one. I was like, I'm not good at lip stains, but my coworker, Katina, who is here, she loves lip stains. So she would love to walk you around. And Katina did. She walked that client around. And then whenever those two were done, whenever I had a free moment, I was like, hey, Katina, can you like give me the rundown on like lip stains you like? So if someone ever asks about them and like what your experience with them is, so I can know that and have that in my brain. And she did. And we would do like, it was great. It was so great. Like our team was so, again, there was a reason I loved working at Sephora and wanted to go there all the time, is because I very much loved this group of people that I worked with. And I know that that is like not the experience for a lot of people in retail. And it varies from store to store. If you do want to work for Sephora and your store, you can tell that they have a good vibe and they welcome new people. And like, that's like, if you can find a good team, it's so great. Another pro to working there was education. So I learned how to do my makeup on YouTube, like many people in this day and age do. Watched creators, learned how they put on makeup. But there is something different about like a brand educating you on their product. They will tell you best practices on how to use the product. They have already done that. They're coming in hot and they're like, this concealer like works the best this way, and that's how you should sell it to clients. Like if your client doesn't use their concealer like this might not be the concealer for them. Brand reps coming into the store, we had great brand reps. Our store, for the most part, amazing brand reps. They did so good at educating us and making it fun. And like, I could never be a brand rep, but these people really, really did that. And the brand reps would be on the sales floor selling their brand. We could pass clients off to them. They were always they were a great resource for education on the brand. And a lot of times brand reps will be brand reps from multiple brands. So if you had a question about a brand that they weren't representing that day, they would also be happy to like help you familiarize yourself with something in another brand that they rep. Amazing. You learn about like what they like, the specific ingredients that they want you to hype up, but they would also tell you like why these ingredients and the where, what specifically for fragrance. Oh my God, fragrance education saved my life all the time. I'm not great at fragrance, and clients who love fragrance like know their stuff. They like really know what they want in fragrance, and it's like a different world for me. So like when I would help people in fragrance, I was like, but after I had like more and more education over like time, I eventually felt very comfortable in fragrance, which was like always shocking. Whenever like I would like walk into fragrance and be like, I know what you need. I know what to help you with. Like getting that and building that confidence through education was wonderful. But like also now coming home and like no longer working for the company, I do miss it. I miss like having a brand being like, this is our new foundation and like, here's who's going to work great for, here's our best practices with it, here are key ingredients. Like I miss that. Like I love that stuff. That stuff's so great. They do need to change the name. They do need to, personally, I feel they should change the name of what they call getting education at the company. They call them daily doses. And like, I was like, I don't know that I like the name of that, but that's a personal opinion. I always just thought that name was like wild. And maybe it's just my brain that associated it with drugs, but like that is really what I always associated it with. Like, here's your daily dose. And I'm like, daily dose of what? Education. But like, yeah, I never really liked that name. So if big Sephora, if you are watching, maybe it's time for a rebrand of daily dosing. This is, I'm not trying to work myself into con territory here, but oftentimes there wasn't time for me to daily dose. Oh, they eventually made it so you could daily dose on the sales floor, but like that was also hard because then you didn't want your volume to be up. You didn't want other people to hear, because sometimes you would get education on something that hadn't launched yet and it like wasn't for the general public to know. But yet we would be like learning about it on the sales floor during holiday season. Tough stuff. This is where I'm going to wrap up the pros, but I would say that this was the ultimate pro for me. And the reason that like Sephora was my favorite job. I was always, I'm gonna cry. Like, that's why this feels more like me telling you the story of like a romance where like there was a breakup at the end. I was always celebrated at Sephora for being me, and it was a celebration. And everyone was celebrated equally in our store for being individuals and having unique takes on makeup and thoughts on the industry. Like we were all celebrated because we all brought something very specific to our store. And like, I can't thank them enough. As someone who is queer, as someone who is born assigned male at birth, who was often told that like whenever you're in a workspace to not be like, don't be too gay, don't be too queer, don't be too feminine, that was celebrated at Sephora. I could be myself at Sephora. And I know a lot of us have like a work personality and like a home personality. It was like the first time where both of those things became one, right? And I was like, not only was I so excited about the industry and company that I was working for, I like also got to do that in a very real way. Like I recently posted a video on my YouTube channel where I came out as non-binary. I have to give a lot of credit to Sephora, not only because of makeup, because I don't think wearing makeup makes you feminine or masculine or any of those things. I don't assign makeup to being like a gendered product or whatever. But because I was so explicitly allowed to be me, I got to explore gender expression in a way that I would not have been able to in other workspaces. So at one point the uniforms changed while I worked for them, and I got one of the smocks, and the smocks were for women, but like I was whenever I asked, I was like, can I get a smock instead of the button-up shirts? And like I was allowed to do that. The smock was just heavy. It wasn't that I didn't like it because it was a smock, but it was just like a heavy garment, and so it wasn't the most comfortable thing, but I was delighted that I got to have the option to wear the smock. And of course, like makeup in general in the world is viewed as a feminine, so I got to celebrate it essentially for exploring the feminine side. So like getting to be myself 100% at work was like very important to me, and it is now something I demand from anywhere I work. Something I cannot say enough about Sephora, at least the Sephora I worked at, being celebrated while also being queer, and like those things like being celebrated and lifted up from within was great. So whenever you see those campaigns, and this is again, like I hate that I have to be so explicit that this is like my personal experience in the specific Sephora that I worked at. I'm sure that at other Sephoras it might not be the case, and that would suck, and I don't want that to be. But like whenever they launched the We Belong to Something Beautiful campaign, like I never once doubted that it was like a very real thing. Because I experienced it in my store. Like I was celebrated for being me, and I felt like I belonged to something beautiful, and it was like very special. All right, so that ends the pros. So obviously we're going to talk about some cons, and I'm going to try to be as frank as I can, and like, again, I'm not trying to be inflammatory. So this was like a con for me specifically, but it's like the hours. So like our store was open till 9 p.m. and I would say like after 7, maybe 7:30, like, oh, traffic like fell off completely in the evenings when it wasn't holiday season. And it was just like, why am I here? And I often worked at night because of my other schedule from my other jobs that I had while I was working at Sephora. I worked evenings and weekends. And so like, it was like, I was always doing the closing duties. And there was like different, you have specific duties. And so like, whenever the store closes at 9, you're there until like 9:30, maybe 10 o'clock, depending on how the day went, and how, things happen, like just sometimes you're there later. So you would just like, it would be like, it'd be like from 8 o'clock on specifically, that last hour would be like, there's nothing happening. Others, like there's a freestanding Sephora in my city, like that is not inside of a mall, and they close at 7. I was like, our store should close at 7. It just was like, why are we still here? Also, there's like a bigger conversation to be said about like malls in general and like the status of malls and like whether or not they're going to be here in general. So that's something to also consider. But like working all day and then also working in the evening, like just like if I could have been done at 7, it would have been a lot different than being like done at 9:30. So that was tough. But again, partially that's like my gripe, and that's like my specific store. Stores close at different times. It depends on what store you work in, where your store is located, etc. That one's on me. This complaint is on me, like not the store. So just a little complaining, just doing a little bit of complaining. Okay, so the next con, I would say, and this is like a criticism. This one's a real criticism. That's not just like me being like complaining about the hours of the store. There's I would say, at least in this, again, speaking for my store, and there was just a severe lack of upward mobility. So you may be wondering, like, I just talked ad nauseum about how much I loved working at Sephora. And you may have had this thought passing while you were listening to me talk. Well, why didn't you ever make Sephora your full-time job? It wasn't for lack of trying. Before COVID, I was like, right before COVID, I was hitting this beautiful stride. I was becoming such a fully realized like salesperson, and I had a confidence walking through the store, being on the floor. Like I just hit this amazing, just like, because I was not always a confident seller. That's like a hard thing to get into, but like I like hit this stride. Like it was amazing. I specifically, one night during holiday, I like sold $1,600 in product to one person, and it was like, I can't believe that happened. It was wild. Like I was like doing the best. I was doing so good, right? And so I was like, I want to be full time here. I want to be full time here. And I like every time we would have like one-on-ones or plans for development, which is, I don't know if they still call them that, but that was like what they were called. They were called P for Ds. It was like plans for development. Every time I'd be like, I want to be here all the time. I don't want to work my other job. Like I want to only be at Sephora. Like I want this to be my be all end all. I love it here so much. Like this is what I want. I want to be here. And like, while it would be like noted and they'd be like, we're so excited that this is where you want to be, but like A, B, and C would have to happen. So like shifts would have to happen above me in order for that to happen. And it would just be like, no movement. And so like every time, you know, maybe an employee would quit, I'd be like, I hope they give me their hours. You know what I mean? Like I want that. Like I always wanted to be there full time. And it was like for years, it just like obviously it never happened. It was like upsetting because I was a good employee. Like I loved working there. And like I had grown, like the way that I had like sucked in information and learned and grew in my time there. It was just like, it never made sense to me, like why I wasn't being offered this. And like I had other jobs because I had to have other jobs. And that was like tough. And then there's another example of like whenever I was on Cash Wrap and I was like hoping to move to the floor, it just like took a very long time. It took a very long time for that like to happen. It just like took so long. And by the time it happened, I felt like my excitement kind of diminished by the time like I did get to move into like the color role and like putting, you know, working with clients on the sales floor. But I will tell you, like waiting to be selected to like move in the store to another role or upward into like, or full time, it was like very much like being one of the green toy aliens in Toy Story where you're like, the claw choose me. And like sometimes it felt like you were like getting picked up and like it was going to happen for you, and then like you would fall back in. Like you would just be like, no, that's not happening for you now. It's disheartening. So if we talk about people like full-time roles, for my first holiday season, there was one person who came full-time, who became a full-time Sephora employee. Like, I'm not the most well-versed in how payroll and things like that work. So, like, I really don't know if I was, like, being forced to not, you know, I don't know what the logistics of that are. That's, like, kind of the reason I was always given. It was, like, we don't have the hours. There's no space for that. Like, but we're excited that you want that. It would be, like, disheartening when you would see other people who had, like, the same passion and fire as you also want the same thing. And, like, knowing that they also won't get it because there just isn't. I mean, like, I always felt like I wanted to see all my coworkers succeed, and I felt like they wanted me to succeed as well. So it was, like, disheartening that, like, there was some of us who were, like, ready to put it all on the line to, like, be in it 100% and just, like, never have that opportunity. Okay, let's talk about pay. Obviously, this is going to vary from person to person, store to store, etc., city to city. But I'm going to be very frank because I think it's very important to talk about how much money you make. It's ridiculous that we were raised, at least my generation, you know, I'm a millennial, I'm 30 years old, but like when I was growing up, it was like, you never talk about income and you never talk about politics. Well, that has all gone out the window. So Whenever I started my first holiday season, I made $10 an hour, but that was fine. It was a part-time job. I wasn't relying on that money. So like, I didn't mind that as like a part-time job. It wasn't minimum wage. It was like, there was encouragement for me to like, there was a reason for me to go do that and make that money. When I came back for my second holiday, they offered me more money to come back because I was like already trained, you know, like they had to do like a little bit of catching me up a little bit whenever I came back. But like, so I was $11 an hour. And then I was pretty stagnant at $11 an hour for a lot of my time there. And I was cash wrap for the first part of my journey at Sephora for a long time. Like I would say like my first year or so, I was at cash wrap. Maybe my third holiday season when I got moved into like the color aspect of things. So I was like $11 an hour. I got a couple raises from like being there, like, you know, being there for a year. I got certain percentage raises. I don't remember what those were. Sorry, I can't be more helpful than that. And at some point, so when I started at Sephora, this is like one of those things that had changed over my time there. And it's like, I didn't feel like I was at Sephora for that long, but I was there for 4 years. So obviously it makes sense that like things would change. So when I started, there was like this tiered bonus structure that you would hit as a store. And then you would get like a percentage of your month's pay as a bonus. So the percentage would go up in the tiered system. And so I was only part-time. So sometimes I was only working like 4 times a month. You know, like I would work like every Saturday, or I would work Sundays, or like maybe a couple nights. But like the tiered bonus structure, like they would always talk about it, be like, we're almost at blah, blah. They had, I don't remember what they were, but they had like the craziest names. They were like the weirdest names. And they're like, we're only blah, blah, blah away from blah, blah, blah. And I'd be like, I don't care, because it would not change my paycheck at all, because it didn't matter the percentage. If I was only making like $200 in the month, if we got like 10% or something, I don't even know if it went that high, but like then I was getting an additional $20 for my first paycheck of the next month, or however that worked. I don't really remember that, but it was a wild system. When they did away with that, now this might be different for other people, but like everyone got $1 raise. That was what I was told. So like I got $1 raise. So they got rid of Sephora, the company got rid of this tiered bonus system, and then everyone in the company got $1 raise on. So then it was around $12 an hour. And so that was like, fine, whatever. I was like, getting $1 raise is like pretty sick, pretty nice. You know, it does that made more of a difference in my pay than this monthly tiered bonus system. It just like, it was not the move. It wasn't the move. I think that giving everyone $1 raise was like nice. Like I thought that, like I liked that. However, because of the lack of upward mobility, there was like a lot of like, I feel like suppression in pay. When you're a cash wrap, you make a certain amount of money, and then people who work in color make more money. But I was assigned to the cash wrap role for a long time, but I was like doing work on the sales floor. So I would say I was like mostly working on the floor. Almost most of my shifts were like spent working on the floor, but they were paying me someone who worked at cash wrap. I don't remember how long it was, but it was like an annoying amount of time. I remember being like so annoyed, and then I eventually got moved into color, got color pay. But my cap, the most money I made at Sephora hourly was $12.50. And that was someone who like worked on the sales floor. And on top of that, I got my esthetician's license while I was working at Sephora. And my pay remained the same after I was licensed. What is the incentive for me as a licensed professional to work there? Because they want people who are licensed in cosmetology and aesthetics to work there, because the intention, and I think they're offering them in some stores, most stores now, that they were going to offer paid for services. And I don't know how to explain the difference. That's like a lot of lore, deep story there. Paid for services, you need licensed people to provide the paid for services, but the services before, you didn't need to be licensed because you were buying product, and the service was like your free gift was getting the makeover. So they're moving to these paid services. They want licensed people. Well, under what circumstances is someone who like bothered to go get their license, specific cosmetology, it's expensive and you're there for a long time. Aesthetics is like not as long. And like that varies state by state too, so I can't speak for everyone, but like I didn't make any more money because I was licensed. I don't know if other people made more money because they were licensed, but I also got licensed amidst the pandemic. So that might have something to do with it, but it was just like, it just feels a little bit wrong now that I was like, I'm a licensed professional in this. And that's what you are like, you are seeking out other licensed people. And I already work for you. Shouldn't you incentivize me to stay with your company? Yeah, it was like, yeah. So $12.50 is where I capped out at Sephora. Okay, what I'm about to say is if you are someone with deep complexion, you're going to roll your eyes at what I have to say. And I'm on I'm on your side. Don't start thinking that I'm going to be like, it was really annoying. No. I was always unbelievably frustrated with the lack of options for people with deep complexions, but not only deep complexions, there's a lack of options for people who have olive complexions at Sephora. At least at the Sephora I worked at, you know, the brands carried vary store by store, so there might be some stores that have awesome options. Like, I will say for like foundation and concealer, we had options for deep skin, deep complexion. Thankfully, brands woke up and realized it, so like we had that. But like, I'm talking about for deep complexions, bronzer and contour. For deep complexion, there was so little options that you couldn't, there was like not much to say. And specifically for contour, like the bronzers that we did carry that might work on a deep complexion were always like ruddy, always very red. And not every client wants a red bronzer. I don't like a red bronzer on my skin tone. I like a neutral or even cool leaning. You know, I like my contour to be more like cool, but so it was like, here are the three options. And Sephora, like, they wanted to make, they're making better moves. I mean, like, they're trying to make moves now. Like, they're trying to have more black owned brands in stores. And hopefully, like, with that, we will get more options for people with deep complexions. There was like no options. So you wanted us, it's like, anytime I had a client with deeper skin and we were talking about bronzers, I was very frank with my clients. I would be like, we do not have anything. And I am so sorry for that. Like, I wish I could take you up to something and show it to you. And I would recommend indie brands that I knew carried awesome, beautiful products for people with deep skin. And I would be like, I'm so sorry that like I do not have that here. Like, I'm so sorry that you are not be able to get the same experience that someone with my complexion could have in the store. It was upsetting. It's very upsetting. And Sephora has a reputation because, you know, if you don't have things to offer, of course people are going to feel excluded from the experience, because there's no possible way that like people can have the same experience if there is not enough options or there's not a variety of options. And it was frustrating. And I also bring up olive complexion. There were like no brands that had like olive undertones. And if they marketed it as an olive undertone, it never was. It was always yellow. I can't tell you the amount of times I had a client come in and they had like an olive undertone and like there was like nothing. I was like, I'm sorry. Again, I'm sorry that I can't give you the same experience that I could give to someone with an undertone that is different from yours. It sucks. It sucks. It's devastating because I love beauty. My experiences in Sephora were always so great. And I always wanted to give the person I was working with like that same experience that like made me want to work for Sephora. But like whenever I cannot, it's like heartbreaking. There's a lot more to that we could like go into, but it sucks. And I'm sorry if you are deep complexioned or have olive skin tones and you've had experiences where you've gone into a Sephora where you felt like there's nothing here for me. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry that is not the experience that you get to have in those stores, because it shouldn't be that way. So I have two more. One's brief, and we'll talk about it. Color IQ. I hated Color IQ. Color IQ, if you've never worked at Sephora, it would be either that little orange thing that they would stick to your face. That's like the older technology. And then they eventually moved to put the technology inside of like iPhones, or I don't know if they were iPhones or just iPods, but like something that looked like an iPhone or iPod. And we had to like shove a stick to your face. That was mostly that was like before the pandemic, because when the pandemic hit, we like weren't allowed to touch people, and that included with our Color IQ technology. The Color IQ technology. My color matching was so much better whenever like we only had the option to like go by the eye. So much better. Also, that's a skill and a tool to be able to learn to color match, because it's a skill. It's tough. It is tough to color match people. And like once you gain it and you can get it, like you can just like you see a client, they come in, you're like, I know you are, like a client could walk in, they'd be like, I want to talk about the YSL All Hours Foundation. I'm like, oh, she's gonna be BD60. You know what I mean? Like you could like know, you were gonna like, I'm gonna show them 3, but I know that this is the one. So the Color IQ was mostly confusing. It eats a lot of time, it ate so much time, especially in holiday season when you were doing a foundation match and you like were pressing this thing in 3 different sides of their face, and then it would show a really weird shade that wasn't any of the shades, and it'd be like, please rescan. It's like, who has time to rescan? So all the time you were readjusting the recommended shade, like which is like something you had to do. And then by the end of that, you had to like email the their shade match. It was just like lunacy. It was crazy. It's just like, I'm not saying that the technology didn't work sometimes, but my eyeballs worked a lot better. My eyes worked so much better than Color IQ, and it was like a very frustrating tool to use. It really was. And so like, do with that information what you will, but like, I hated Color IQ. I don't know if anyone else who's worked for Sephora hated Color IQ, but ooh, I did not like that technology. What I'm talking about next, what I would say like would be like the first sign of the breakup coming. Sephora launched the Sephora credit card in 2019. And I would say this is the first thing that Sephora ever like came out with, and like idea they had that I was like vehemently, I did not like the idea of a credit card, because it changes the dynamics in the store. The dynamics that I have with clients, the dynamics with management and employees, and it changes the way corporate treats the store. So it trickles down, and it makes things ugly. So when the credit card was first launched, I think Sephora knew that there was going to be pushback from employees. They were like, we're just going to raise awareness of it. There's like no goals. You just like, we want you to talk about it. If you get someone who applies for the credit card, great. But if not, like no harm done. Just try. And then I don't know how many months into the credit card being like a willy-nilly thing that it became like there's a percentage each day that we want to hit. And so you need to get a certain percentage of the clients you have come into the store apply for the credit card. And like when that happened, just like a series of things that occurred after that just like made me like really hate the credit card. One, it became all we talked about. It wouldn't even be like, are you excited about makeup today? Or like, this thing's launching. Let's talk, like, isn't that exciting that this thing is launching? It'd be like, let's talk about credit card. It just like felt like if you would enter the store, you would like not even be punched in. It'd be like, let's talk about credit card. And like, how are we going to talk about credit card today? How are we going to integrate credit card into our conversations today? And it was just like, I'm not here to sell credit cards to people. I'm here to sell makeup and educate people on makeup, because that's like what I am passionate about. And that's like what I want people to experience when they're here. I don't like, and I always tried to do it organically. Like, I was never like trying to be completely dismissive of the credit card, because I did want to get hired full time. So like I had to like try, like I had to make an effort to give credit card, but like I wasn't the best at it, but it's because I never wanted to be the best at it. Like that was like not my personal goal. Like I did not want to be good at selling credit card. Because if you remember the beginning of my story, the reason I wanted to start Sephora was to pay off a credit card, because I had spent too much money on a credit card. I wanted the extra job because I wanted to pay off a credit card. And so now it seems very like hypocritical of me to like be at a job and be like, I don't want people to go into debt. Like that's not what I want. And like, yes, it's a great program if you are responsible and you are not buying more than you can afford, and you are like buying the product and then paying off the credit card immediately. You get great rewards. I'm not going to lie to you. I have the Sephora credit card. So it's not like I think it's a bad idea, but like I also at this point in my life like know how to have a credit card and like know how to responsibly use a credit card so I can get my 5% cash back or whatever. You know, like I am fully capable of doing that now. But like there are people, as someone who like has struggled, continues to struggle with impulse control, like I understand that. But like, and I realize that the company's like, well, that's like not on you. It's like, oh yeah, it's not on me, but like it would have been helpful if like people weren't shoving credit card offers down my throat. Like if someone was just like, it's like, it was always like, let them make the decision. But it was just like, you'd be like selling someone a mascara and then you'd be like, you can save 15% today if you are apply for and are approved for a credit card. Like, oh my God, like we ad nauseum in our ear sets, like ad nauseum, like it was just like always talking about credit card. It was like, why didn't that person sign up for a credit card? How did you talk to others about credit card? It's infuriating. And like, that was like one of the first things that was just like a big like, oh, I don't like this. Ooh, this feels gross to me. Ooh, yucky. Didn't like that. But like the credit card was around for like a year before like things truly changed. But like, it was like one of the first things where I was just like, oh, I don't like this. This is making me like not happy. Like, I don't love this. I don't love having to come into work and like explain why I didn't get a credit card the last time I worked. And this is a bigger problem. Sephora really thinks that it's part-time employees, which like most of the people who work for Sephora are part-time employees. They want us to buy into this culture like 100%. And whenever I'm only there for 5 hours on a Saturday, every Saturday, it's really hard for me to like buy into the culture whenever I'm not in the culture for most of my week. I'm in another corporation's culture full-time because they wanted to have me full-time and like I work for them full-time. So that is the culture that I am mostly immersed in. So when I come in on Saturday, I haven't seen any of you for 6 days. And the first thing is like, we're buying into the credit card. We love the credit card. Sell the credit card. It's just like, I won't. And like our store, God bless the people who put these things together, but it would be like, you know, in first grade, you would get like stars for whenever, and like, we're adults. Even the youngest person who works at Sephora is like a young adult. We're adults. Don't try to vote me with like a gumball machine. Like if sometimes that was like, it felt offensive. Like I hated it. I like didn't love that. Like fill your gumball machine with like every time you get a credit card sign up, you would get a gumball. And then if you got so many gumballs, you get $5. $5 to Starbucks. That's going to end my cons. And then, so now I'm going to wrap things up and like tell you about the real turn of events that like ultimately led to me making my decision that like Sephora wasn't for me anymore. I'd be remiss to like not mention it, but like COVID-19 definitely happened while I was working at Sephora. And like, I would say that that's like really where the tides turned. So the state of Pennsylvania was in lockdown for 3 months. And so we weren't working at Sephora. To give Sephora some credit, we were paid through most of shutdown. I don't remember how many weeks it was, but like we received like a certain percentage of like, it was like worked out that like you got some money. You got some money from Sephora. So you weren't like 100% on unemployment. People who are full-time, I believe I don't remember that, but like there was people where we were getting paid. And that was great. There was also a large group of people fired during lockdown because I think that no one expected lockdown to last as long as it did. So like the money was drying up faster than I think they thought it was going to. So to catch up to speed on the pacing of my life before Pennsylvania shut down and I wasn't able to work, I was working full-time at a salon, at a front desk. Like, I really don't care if you know what I did, but I worked like at a front desk of a salon full-time, Monday through Friday. Monday through Thursday, I would leave the salon at 3 or 4 and go directly to nighttime esthetician school for 5 hours. So I would like work, not 5 hours, 4 hours. So I would work until 4, leave work to go to school and go to school from 5 to 9. And then on the weekends, I would work at Sephora. Not both weekend days. I maybe had like one day a week off, but like So I was going to school for 20 hours. I was working 40 hours at another job. And then also I was working, you know, between 5 and 9 hours at Sephora. I thought that I was like working towards something that would inevitably pay off. And I think maybe in another world where like COVID didn't happen, that could have been a possibility. But like, isn't that the American dream? They're like on the other side of it, it would have been like, they worked so hard to get this. They worked full time and also had a part-time job and we're going to school part-time. They were doing the best that they can. So this, because of me slowing down and having time to reflect on like the way I was living my life before the pandemic, a lot changed. A lot of my mindset changed. The way I viewed consumerism and capitalism and the way I experienced life, the way I realized that like life can be so much more than work. I realized that for me to be able to live sustainably and happily, it did not involve me. It should never have had to have been for me to work 40 hours a week, go to school 20 hours a week, and then work an additional 5 to 10 hours on the weekend. Because what am I left with? What is left? What is mine? Like, what is left for me? And that was a big deal. I was like, I gained time in the pandemic. And I'm not here to like make you feel or tell you you should feel whatever way you feel about lockdown. It was just for me. That was my experience. So whenever stores started opening up at the end of June, I was like, this is different. I mean, obviously it was like very weird and complex for a number of reasons, but it was like, it feels weird to like work in a place where like I'm selling products to people where they want me to sell a credit card to people. That was tough because my like world, my personal world had changed and my viewpoints, maybe not changed, but like there was an acceleration of like this anti-consumerism, anti-capitalism feeling that was like burning inside of me. It was like expedited. It was like, you are now at the destination. You are here. You hate this. And again, I had time. So then I was like going back to work and like I was losing my time again. And I had to finish beauty school and like all of these things. I kept working. It was holiday season again all of a sudden because I wasn't getting full-time at Sephora. And like when I came back from the pandemic, I was still trying to get a full-time job at Sephora. Like it was like my dream for myself. Like I still saw myself being full-time at Sephora and like that was going to fulfill my destiny and fulfill my heart and make me feel very good. I wasn't offered that. And again, that's more complex. You know, I was being reasonable. Like I was like, we're in a pandemic. Like a lot of stuff has happened. Like, of course, there's probably not gonna be time for it to be full-time. And so then I found another job again. So then I was working full-time at another job. This was like in October. And then I was like working Sephora on the weekends and evenings, mostly weekends because like I couldn't work evenings. Anyway, beside the point. And then a holiday came and I was exhausted and I hated coming to Sephora. It was something I dreaded all the time. I never wanted to go. I didn't want to go talk about credit cards. I still loved talking to people about makeup, but I didn't want to talk about credit cards. We were in a pandemic that destroyed people's lives, and money, capital, had a lot to do with that. The fact that there were people who had no money, just like during the pandemic, like had no money. And so the audacity of this company to want me we're still amidst a pandemic, to be like, do you want a credit card? Like, it just was like, what? What? And it just like killed me. The true line in the sand was drawn in January. So I work full time. I work at Sephora on the weekends. It's exhausting. I was like, I'm going to make it through holiday season because again, I loved everyone I worked with and I never wanted to I didn't want to quit or make any moves in the middle of holiday season. I was like, we can get through holiday season. I can power through. I powered through a lot. Like I was doing a lot before the pandemic. I can power through this. Gets to January when things start slowing down. Like that's like the slower business time. of the store, I spoke to my manager and I was like, I'm experiencing an unreal amount of burnout and like, I don't know what that is. Like, is there any way that I could work like every other weekend where I could just like have consistently like 2 days off like every other weekend or something? Like I was like, something needs to happen where like I'm not like the way that things are going down for me, or like it's not sustainable for me anymore. And you might be like, well, you were doing so much more before the pandemic. But again, remember, I realized that my time is not to be wasted. And it felt like my time was being wasted. And I was like trying to get some of it back in a way where I didn't want to quit my job. I didn't want to quit my second job because I loved it, right? Or I thought I did. So we talked about it and she was like, it's not something we can do long term, but we can like try it for a little bit of while. But like she also said to me, this was like fair enough. She was like, maybe this just like isn't for you anymore. And like that hurt me. It like broke my heart. I was like, is it not for me anymore? And I could not fathom a world where like working at Sephora wouldn't be for me. We had like agreed that we are going to do it for a short period of time. Maybe I get my steam back. Let's see what happens. Well, because I was a licensed esthetician, Sephora was going to try to start providing, well, I think some Sephoras already provided eyebrow waxing services, but our store did not. There were surveys sent out. There was a distinct time. I hate waxing, just so you know, like it's, as an esthetician, it is like not the thing that I'm going to do. Like I'm never going to run out and get a job waxing. There are people who love waxing, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But like waxing is like not for me, specifically eyebrows. I literally don't have them. I was like, I hate eyebrows so much. Bye. I do not want you anymore. No more eyebrows. Peace. No more eyebrows. So they were going to introduce an eyebrow waxing service. If you don't remember, well, maybe you don't. Maybe no one pays attention. I don't know. COVID numbers spiked a lot in January of 2021, and an upsetting amount, an absurd amount. They were like spiking. And I do want to comment on this before anyone like tries to use this as like against me in any kind of way. There were massage therapists, estheticians, cosmetologists who were providing services once the state opened and allowed us to do so after the lockdown. So yes, there were people who were already providing these services. But to me, while the numbers were spiking, it seemed like a very uneducated, not well thought out move to start providing services in which we're going to have to touch the client. It just like did not make any sense to me. It's like, no, I'm not going to touch these people now. Not only that, I should have mentioned this earlier, but like after lockdown and whenever there were like a lot of restrictions on what we were allowed to do and not to do in the store and what the clients were allowed to do and not to do in the store, I have never experienced such vitriol and hatred towards myself about something that I had no control over. People were nasty, like absolutely nasty. Like nasty clients existed before COVID, but after COVID, people were gross, just so gross. I got yelled at once a day by someone, or had like a snappy remark at me because I asked someone to like pull their mask above their nose, or like telling someone I wouldn't provide them a service unless they put their mask above their nose, or like wouldn't help them. Beforehand, it like never bothered me, and it was like also did not help. It was like there was few and far between. I would say like maybe once a month I had a client that got to me enough where I would like come home and complain about the client. But it was like every day I was like having interactions with people that were awful, just like awful. And I'm a very resilient person. I can normally take it, but like to have it day in and day out while work, it was way too much. Sephora, okay, let me get back to the eyebrows or lack thereof. They were going to start offering eyebrow services. And because I was licensed, they were like, I was going to get put into the training. Well, the training was supposed to start right after I had asked to have more time off because I was like feeling burnt out. So I literally the weekend after I had asked to work every other weekend and like get some steam back, to try to get some energy back, get some life back into me, I was scheduled 2 weekend days in a row. because they were like putting me in the training for a service that I wouldn't have wanted to provide before the pandemic, but especially don't want to touch people now, especially after they've proven that they can't respect the 3 things that we asked the people to do when they would come into the store. It was just like, you're asking a lot from me, and it's not going to happen. I spent so much time. I was so mad that I got scheduled 2 weekend days in a row right after I was like, I need a reprieve. And like, it was like, yes, we can give you that reprieve for a little bit. And I was just like, oh my God. Like, I could not believe that I was like scheduled 2 days in a row. But not only that weekend, but the next weekend. And don't forget, I work full time. Like, I am at another job. So if I would have worked 2 weekend days, 2 weekends in a row, I work 5 days at my business, like at my other job. And then I work 2 days at Sephora. So 7, 14, like upwards of 20 days before I would have my next day off. Right after I said I was burnt out. And so it was like the first time I really thought about quitting. And then it was all I could think about. It was all I could think about was quitting. And that upset me. I was like, I don't want to quit. Why can I quit this job? It was my favorite job I ever had. Still is my favorite job I ever had. I would like ride my Peloton and cry thinking about how I might have to quit Sephora because it's just like not working for me anymore. I then made it was all I talked about to people. I was like, I think I have to quit. Like, what do you think? Like, whatever. And I would say like when I was telling a majority of people, I'm not gonna say all people, because I have a couple people in my corner on my side that like saw what was going on and like knew that I needed to get out. But we're kind of letting me come to my own conclusions. There were a lot of people who were like, well, it's your favorite job. Like, it doesn't make any sense for you to not work at Sephora. Well, I wrote my resignation letter. I cried. I sat on my resignation letter. I didn't send it right away. It was like written. And I was like, the idea of me working, like, I do not want to provide this service. I don't want to do this. And so I like sent my resignation letter. And what was funny is like there was a lot of stuff going on, and like it took them a few days because I wasn't working the days when I sent my resignation letter. It like took 3 days for me to get an email back to be like, yeah, we got your resignation letter. Like, so sorry, whatever. That was a traumatizing couple of days. So I was like, are they just going to tell me like that I can't quit? And so that's what happened. I put my 2 weeks in, and in my resignation letter, I was like, I will not be working those training days. I will work for the store, but I will not do the training. That's going to be a waste of your time and capital. And it's going to be a waste of my time and energy. So like, let's not do that. And so I worked my last couple shifts. It was hard. Even after I quit, I like thought about it all the time for like a month. I was like, I made the wrong decision. I should never have quit. I made the wrong decision. Definitely was the right decision for me. It was a hard decision for me to make. And like, again, my experience, my personal experience, it like hurt. It like upset me that something I once loved and brought me so much joy turned into something that like I couldn't do anymore because it like didn't bring me joy. So to wrap this all up in a way that doesn't feel like so negative is that at Sephora, I learned a lot about myself and about what I was like, capable of, and learned how intelligent and talented I was. Even though there wasn't an upward mobility, I was developed a lot. There was a lot of time spent helping me, if not from the store itself, from my coworkers. I learned so much from that job. And I am thankful that I learned all those things and got technically good at what I wanted to do. And I'm thankful for my time at Sephora. Ultimately, I'm so happy that I got to have that experience. I'm still sad that like it like, turned into something that wasn't going to be for me long term. So if you've made it to the end of this video, thank you so much for coming on this journey with me. I know I can be a little bit verbose. I would love to have you subscribe to my channel if you want to see more content from me. Also would love for you to like this video. I make a lot of other content. So if you like my voice and want to hear more of it, I'm on 3 podcasts. And those are in my link tree below, as well as my Instagram if you would like to see more of me. Wow, what a time. That's emotional. I felt emotion. I'm ready to go. So thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in my next video. Friends.